right.
Awesome. All right. I'm super excited. Thank you for volunteering to be here. I know it's time out of your day, time away from your kids, probably dinner time, but your other half is managing kids at home right now. So thank you. Um, my hope is that for our committee, this is the only meeting that I will actually be leading. So as we go through our agenda today, we're going to set up what this committee would like to cover, what we want to work through. Between Nadia and I, our job is to provide you with as much information as we need, but then also as a group today, we'll discuss about like what is the group's desire for deliverables. Like what would the group, so we'll talk a little bit about what Los Altos does, I'll provide some information, and the group can really decide what you want to do moving forward and what the committee is going to look like. But maybe we start first by, so that was a welcome. Oh, yeah, it's 2 pages. Pass it over. I think having a committee like this is incredibly important and empowering because it's a way for the community to feel safe that the district's budget is well managed. To share some positive news, we have a draft audit report that we'll be sharing with the board later, but we have another, it looks like will be another clean audit. And then we can answer lots of questions about what the difference between audit is versus questions about other pieces when it comes to district finances. We can also kind of go around and do brief introductions, name if you're affiliated with the school site, a little bit of your background. So as we're sharing together, we know how to discuss items together. So, do you want to start off?
I'm Doug. Son goes to Landals. I'm a CPA. Been practice for 15 years. Done some school audit work too, so have a little background. That's me.
I'm with Vivek Sharma. I have twin who started school, excellent school here, just over at Stevenson. They're now at Graham, it's 7th grade. My background is I'm an entrepreneur. My industry has been education, mostly the few products. Right now, I am just thinking about another project. At this moment, I'm exclusively devoted to my daughters. They take 90% of my time. But most of the time, they don't like it. Big contrast from elementary school. And my interest in has been, I've been involved with Siemens before for a year, I think, and then just interested in facilitation in space. And learn a little bit more. You see, I got to LLB leadership on reviews. So I came here a year ago, and I think even now, I feel like a lot. I want to get back. And I think one of the ways to get back is get more communicated, more autographs, education, which is very good. Huge part.
I'm Patty Love. I am a parent of 3, first grader, a T-care, and then next year I have another T-care coming in to BMI. I am the product of the public school education of this area. So I went to Springer, Bluff, and Los Altos High. And I would say I have a long-term interest in seeing public education continue to be successful in this local area. So like hyper-local area. I have a background in finance and M&A. I worked in investment banking, Harvard, MBA, and I currently work in strategy for Thermo Fisher Scientific. So I work in corporate strategy, and I guess what I specialize in is highly complex decision-making in a highly matrix environment, and then being able to kind of distill that down into what does your budget look like? So being able to align your strategic initiatives with your execution, and therefore how much money do you need to make that happen. So that's kind of what I do.
I'm Mark Morrison, parent of a grand sixth grader and a Los Altos High senior, and now been resident for quite a while. Spent 4 years in Florida during the pandemic. My background is mainly in business technology, to go all the way back. But I spent time in the community serving as kind of a volunteer around the AYSO soccer region for a while. Big advocate of really, what I think we're tasked to do, create some transparency and some more balance. But I think that this will be a good opportunity for me to help understand a little bit better the needs of the district, and again, balancing both every angle. There's parents, there's kids, students, there's teachers, staff. So I appreciate being part of this.
My name is Bill Lambert. I'm a trustee of the school district. I'm representing the board. That may change when the board takes over and we assess sort of roles and committees. Background, I was a research chemist at Bell Labs for 20 years at school. Now, I'm an attorney. I live in a model neighborhood. My daughter was with
I'm Rebecca Cho. I have a tutor at Nichols, and I have another one weekly. I am a finance professional. Product finance, corporate finance, similar specialties that Patty mentioned. Overall, an active driver of being part of this was wanting to have a greater appreciation of the complexity of what it takes to deliver a school system that provides for this kinds of students.
I'm Vern Taylor. I'm one of the principals at the school at St. Bernard Arkansas Elementary School. I've been with the district since 2008. I'm pregnant. I student taught in 2007 at Landos. I worked at Castro, Nicholas Castro for Castro and Straw. I was an instructional coach at Faircroft, Montaloma. I did teacher coaching at Bub Stevenson. I was an assistant principal at Graham for 2 years, and now I worked at most of the schools in some capacity. And I am here because I have an interest in sort of how budgets develop for my personal school, but then also just the system at large. I think thinking about and how those systems intertwine and kind of how that impacts individual schools, but then how the needs at different schools are different, and so budgets aligning differently for different schools, and kind of thinking about creatively distributing resources so that all the kids' needs met, but also that we focus on some of our most vulnerable populations.
I'm Nadia Alonso, I'm the director of the school services. I've been in the district for a little bit over 5 years, started in September 2019. Before that, I was working in the Neighborhood District Hospital Los Altos. I was there for a little bit since 2010, for whole roles, and before that, I worked in a CPA office. And before that, I worked at Los Altos High School. I started in the classroom as an instructional aide and bookkeeper. And I majored in accounting. And I was like, I went to Los Altos High School. So I'm the kind of community person that I appreciate public education. And I'm glad I started my career in education. And I'm looking forward to working with you and getting to know you and hear from you your questions and what is interested on learning about our I'm Rebecca Westover. I'm the Chief Business Officer for the district. This is, will be year 10 when I finish. Started off as a principal in the district at Stevenson. My role is, I like to say sometimes, the money food and toilets. So anything that is not curriculum related typically falls under my hat. So child nutrition, maintenance, operation, transportation, as well as business. And then we need to talk a little bit about like what the structure looks like. So Nadia is the director of finance, and then over MOT we have a director, and then over child nutrition we have a director. Things prior to being in this district, I was in Palo Alto as assistant principal, and then I've taught elementary through high school. Started off in elementary and then as a high school science teacher. Thank you for giving us all background. I'm excited for what we're doing next. So next up is the most important part. So earlier I said this is probably the only meeting in which I will be running and chairing. This is really a committee made up of the members. So we need to select, or my suggestion is that we select a chair, a co-chair, and somebody that is secretary. So as we go through all of our meetings, the chair would set, we would collaboratively today, the goal is to talk about what topics we want to cover this year. And then the secretary would then help set the agenda for the following meeting, but also help, if the committee is going to request information, would also help Nadia and I prep up like, what is it that you need us to bring to the next meeting? Co-chair could help carry the burden. And then the secretary, what I'd like to do is after each meeting, so Nadia and I are tag teaming notes right now, but after each meeting, being able to post something to talk about what it is that we discussed and what's coming next. So,
Some question first. So I'm curious who initiated the budget advisory committee, and if there is, other than the public, like who we are reporting back to, or who we have owe some accountability to.
yeah.
Also, to tag on, if there's any sort of authority or decision, it's purely advisory versus actual decision.
The actual decision-making process is with the board. So the board is the only one that has the authority to make decisions, but this group, I hope can become an it is set up as an advisory group to the superintendent. So whatever reports that the committee creates, can go to advise the superintendent. In Los Altos, they have a format that I think works really well, is they have a meeting like this regularly. And then the committee, part of what the committee does is they actually go out to the school sites and present to schools and parents. So like Nadia and I have presentations that we give to the board on a regular cadence, but I think what would be really helpful is for this committee to feel comfortable to, in Los Altos, they create presentations, like the district staff provides information and the committee creates a presentation and then shares it with parents at schools. And that really, that strikes me when I was speaking with Eric, who's the CEO in Los Altos, as something that has been very positive for them. But it's truly up to this committee on what we would like it to look like.
That's right. That's right. And I'm not taking any credit for this. I think it came up in the last several months when there's been discussion about our budget and expenditures. So just needed some. I think the board was unable to answer a lot of these questions because we did not have access. I pointed out to the superintendent that we can have an organizational chart that breaks up our district in certain areas and the legal is to figure out how much, who's associated, let's say, with mental health. Who do people go to? How many people are employed? What does that budget look like? Could be for service, food services. It could be for turnaround efforts in housing. And so we didn't have that kind of information available, and therefore it really hampered our ability to make strategic decisions. in the school district, and get what money we have allocated in the right places, just even as a sample, not necessarily for anything was wrong, which it probably is, but, we needed more details, something that's less than a high overview that, less overview presents to the board and the details of the contract. And then I think that there's a lot of, let's say, feeling of lack of transparency from the public. And what it was, the information, this sort of intermediate information wasn't available for people to understand and verify. So I think that was sort of the origination of this. To your point, I think she said one of the recipients of the information was superintendent, the board also. This information, and the public. It's the other. So we have all these sort of clients that we're trying to serve.
That's helpful because that basically says, in terms of budget decisions, all of that is with the superintendent. But in terms of other strategic decisions, those are made by the board. And then there are, individual family decisions that are made by the parents. And all three of these constituents are interested in having, and are all looking for some additional details on the budget. And one of the goals for this committee is to help facilitate that visibility.
This is very suggestive too, even sites, how much money is going to each of our sites. But just all sorts of allocate different ways of allocating. Use of students.
So if you understand this, the board's expectation from this committee is to provide transparency of data to the board as well as the public. Is that what is, because I want to understand what is expected of us. So that would mean that we would ask district for that information.
I think, sorry, to interrupt, as point of agreement, it's also upon us to determine what is the purpose. I mean, I found that transparency is
Yes,
really
that's
important,
what
but
I guess we would note down what is expected of the committee.
Sounds like we get to build our own expectations.
Oh, that's not-
Yeah, we got a piece of land, we got to kind of do everything from scratch, right?
yes,
Sounds good.
That's exactly right. You get real people here who work in this field all the time, who you sort of tell us what we do, right? And how we want, right? Because we're not experts. The board are not experts.
That's kind of a question, like financial materials that are on the board agenda, is kind of the depth of the financial stuff you get in the budget, book, preliminary budget, right?
I would recommend that, that guy show you what this typically presents.
From what I saw, it's usually kind of high level. It's like it's restricted, it's unrestricted. I was just kind of getting a feel for what the current state is.
Yeah, I think something that sometimes we struggle with is we have mandatory format that we have to follow for reporting the school budget, which is something called the SACS forms. And then throughout the years, we've created different, we have a budget book that we put together. It's all, I guess, because we're all in the Van Nuys world. Anything that's manual entry takes hours and hours, like when you're pulling from different reports. So we do have a budget book that's put together that was intended to be kind of, tried to be the mid-level, which talked about like program expenditures. So there's a budget book that we put together. At first interim, we also do a infographic, and then we just layered on top this year. For first interim, we copied actually exactly what Sunnyvale has done in terms of taking information from the SACS documents and putting it in a different format. So there are some things there that we've done, but I think something that we struggle with is like what format does the public or would the board like to see information in while balancing whenever we do something by hand, it's gonna take, 3 to 4, whatever it is, it takes hours, so if we automate it, that would be great, but it's something that we would like the committee's help with. What does that look like?
Yeah, my comment on that's like, looking at things like the budget book, it was very like expense focused. And I mean, one limitation like schools have, right, is you have restrictions and all these different sources of revenue. I think it'd be nice to see, okay, with this category of stuff, this is, the revenue associated with it, right?
So, I'd first like to propose that we do this in a slightly different order. I'm personally not ready to commit to any position or vote on anything, select a chair until we have a better idea of what we're in for. And this is a good discussion. So I think maybe what we do is we've kind of started with the intros. We've kind of started to go into number 3, the committee purpose and goals. I think meeting schedule and next steps we can leave to the end, but it would help to talk about, the introduction to school finance. I think that'd be helpful. And then maybe now we can back into like who's gonna do it and then therefore our next steps.
So I've got a question and a comment, actually comment question. I've got a hard stop on the hour. I'd like to get through everything because it sounds like there's information you presented. I love the versatility and the flexibility here, but maybe we can follow the lead here and lead next meeting just to get through everything. Happy to do it in whatever order you all think is good. Find a way to select people if that's okay with you all, but I think if we can just get through everything that you all want us to know, then we can kind of get real busy starting out for the night. Is that okay? We can wait on selections if that's what the group wants to do, but I'd love to just get through everything here and understand what we need to do after tonight.
So can I just clarify? So what I'm hearing is a lot of people feel slightly uneasy about making a decision about purpose and goal because they may not have a full understanding of the way school finance works. So I think what I heard was a recommendation to, if we start with presenting what's at the bottom, just so that people have a sense of what the school finance is, then it's easier to say, hey, this is our goal now that we know, like, we have unrestricted funds that go this way. Is that what I heard?
I think it's just the selection of committee officers
Okay.
and I'm like,
Maybe I can ask a few questions. When I was thinking about kind of what we would do tonight, I didn't think we would be able to dive into anything too deeply. But to help us with our next steps, to understand what it is the committee, like if we were to schedule out our year, so with our sustainability committee, during our first meeting, we all shared, what was of high interest to us. Because I think we probably, each individual joined the committee for a particular reason. So we can make sure to hit those topics, because ideally we have our year scheduled out, because what I wouldn't want to have happen is like we dive so far into Title I funding and we get stuck in Title I funding for like 3 meetings, and that's a very small percentage of our budget. So if we have kind of an idea holistically of saying, we want to look at these, how contracted services, how the contracts are, approved and paid for, or we would like to, like, our end goal is like twice a year. So like in Los Altos, the parents on the committee go out and present to every, I have to ask parents, whether it's PTA or school site council and how they do it. So like, what is it that we are most interested in for the year? And then what would we like our deliverables to be? And I think I also, what I heard from Bill is Bill saying, I want a better understanding of the budget. So Bill gets a high level on the board and he's asking for something in the middle. And I'm not quite, I know the community is asking for transparency, but transparency can look like many different things. Like we can pull hundreds and hundreds of pages of reports, but that's not transparent. It won't feel like transparency because it's not digestible, it's not understandable. So my question is, what would that look like to the community and how might this group deliver that?
Yeah, it sounds like we could suggest a framework tonight and start making decisions after tonight. but it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity here to start from scratch. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of the things that I would like to know are just generally, how can we work together to form the efforts we need based on the audience? It sounds like we need to really know our audience, and there's also some other assumptions, it sounds like, that we can follow. Just if we're looking at the world here and trying to be transparent, right? It doesn't seem like we're gonna ask the outside for input per se, but I can think as a parent, I can think as an advocate for staff and teachers, and I think if we agree on our audience and we're forming this for first, that would be really helpful. I don't think we have some comments.
I think the audience seems to me after this one is the vote, and second is the public. I think that's two audience we have. That's what I would think. Obviously, when we can look at specifics.
Is the superintendent a part of the board? Should we assume that is?
Superintendent. So I think the way the committee is set up is the committee provides information to the superintendent, who can then provide it to the board, is how I understood the committee does. This is not a committee that reports to the board, it reports to the superintendent. So I guess the audience would be superintendent and public.
So I think there's, answer question, other ways to say, superintendent is involved with district operations. And so his view of the budget has to go on with his operations. The board's role is to set policies for the district. So the board's goal with finances is are the finances aligned with the policies that we establish. So they're two different audiences.
So the superintendent ultimately makes funding budgetary decisions.
So the day-to-day operations of the district are run by the superintendent, but the board is the one that's ultimately approving budgets, for example. So
My understanding has been that both there is some strategy this board comes up with based on, for working with the school, approves that strategy 5-year, 1 year, then the case budget for it, for those specific activities, and then superintendent takes it and spends it accordingly. And if there are some things we need to do, come back to the board for change in approval, or again, approve this, additional increase, and it goes on. That's yeah.
So it's really alignment with finances with those policies. We almost have no way of knowing that. Just don't know.
So that piece is really interesting to me. Yes, like the whole night of understanding. Because that surprises me.
Yeah.
But again, the last board meeting was one of the first that I sat in, and I think, well, angels for going through 4 or 5 hours in a meeting, but that topic there is, to me, is really interesting.
Yes.
And I think that what's really important is that you sort of understand what we're doing. You guys are the experts, and we want you to tell us what we do. And I think that's another thing, except for Rebecca. Nobody has really a background in finance. And, you're coming up to speak, too. It's not your necessarily.
not use
Not
it.
So,
Yeah,
so this is where this is sort of coming from. You guys need to help us. Need to help us know what we need to know.
So I think, based on his comment of understanding our audience, I think that will then inform what's, I think we need to align on what is our ultimate mission. And therefore that will define what are the deliverables we want to do. I think we're all clear in regards to really establish this.
So based on this, I'm a little confused about who our audience is.
Yeah.
So we are supposed to provide information to the superintendent. But then we're also.
We'll distribute to everybody else. So from what I do, I'm looking at this as a
Yeah.
parent, but also as a district advocate. And I didn't mention this, but we have one of the most awesome districts in the country. I've spoken about that before. Very lucky to be here. So my audience is what I assume is the greater community looking to understand and have more quote unquote trust in everything that's going on from the superintendent level down to everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah, so and I guess maybe a little of my confusion is like, from a school standpoint, right, we control what, 60 to 80K of the district's budget, right? And so I have a sense of how I spend my money, and they're aligned to our strategic goal plans as in our steps. So all of those things are aligned. When I look at board reports, I see a similar process through that, and so my understanding of the audience was always about the public having a similar understanding of how funds are spent. And so I'm wondering kind of how do we create a system where we have two different audiences? Because I think the audiences are slightly different and the information that's needed is slightly different. Because I think our district knows how they're spending money and which goals they're aligned to it. I think Rebecca knows that and can kind of tell us like where money is, maybe not 100%, like she knows that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that maybe I may be misunderstanding. I don't know that she needs that specific information. The board may need a more detailed level, and I think maybe that's also what the public may need, but I think it may be a slightly different level, because I think you have a sense of how unrestricted, restricted funds, whereas our public really sometimes doesn't. I mean, I've listened to board reports and they're like, why can't you pay teachers out of this money? And it's like, well, you can only use facilities, like it's a facilities bond. So, so I just wonder if we have a split need or a split piece, and do we want to tackle those at the same time? Do you want to try to use the same presentation format or the same pieces to like do that? But I think they are slightly different.
Yeah, so basically, what I understand is transparency is a thing. Basically, transparency for the board, transparency for the public, transparency for the school, transparency for the committee, for this committee. And from that, how do you provide that transparency, which is what comes to which format and for who? Right? The format will differ from year to year. So it has nothing to do with us providing efficiency to the spend or advising about how you can efficiently manage or spend that. We have nothing to do with that. For us, right? And I'm just clarifying that. It is board's decision and how to spend it. We just want to make this available to the different stakeholders, which for us as a budget committee, in a format which is easy to do.
So I think I want to go back to, I'm really stuck on why this committee got opened, which is that we're supposed to provide information to the superintendent. And the information that I think the superintendent needs is what do parents want? What does the board want? And parents can't, and the public can't really say what they want because they don't really understand the budget process, and they don't have the transparency to like how the finances work. And so there's a little bit of like, we have to build a couple things. One, we have to build, first, there needs to be some basic understanding of like, what is our district budget? How does this work? And then secondly, we need to ask the parents then, who are now informed on how budget works, what do you want? Now that you are informed, what do you want?
I'm not sure is that what is expected of the committee. That's what I'm trying to get at. What I've heard, our job is not to how to figure out how to efficiently spend the budget, or ask from people how should we get feedback and then take that feedback and present this is the way how this should efficiently spend the budget. That's not what we are.
I wouldn't preclude us from making a recommendation if you have an opinion, because it sounds like you guys are looking for
Yeah,
that.
that's what board does, right?
But it sounds like the board is also looking to a panel of experts to provide.
I don't know.
I'm sorry if I'm.
I'm sorry, here.
Yeah, that's what.
I think we should get that. I think we should get that. I mean, that did come up. It's like how we you know, what funds are available? How do
I think what I wanted to, maybe something that I agree with points that everyone is making, because I think there needs to be a base understanding of like the district's budget. 'Cause as we're talking through things, thinking, well, 80% of our budget is teachers and staff, like that, 80% of the budget is taken up already, like, unless you're gonna lay people off, you know, we're not, we can't change that. And then, you know, we go out to different percentages of how it's broken out, then we have like maintenance and these things that are really not, like, PG&E bills, things that, you know, really, there's not much flexibility there. So I think there's probably a general like lay of the land, here's the district's budget. And then I think if after we look at the lay of the land of district budget, if recommendations come out of it, I think that's helpful. But I wonder, I think in listening to conversations that were happening this past year, like just if we're honest, it was about contracts that there were certain contracts that the public was very interested in. But in totality of our budget, that's a very small percentage. So yes, like those contracts, you know, canceled and are reallocated elsewhere now. But how can we make sure, because I think that small percentage of the budget does not, like, in our opinions, does not reflect the majority of our budget. So I think what I would love is for the public to have trust again that says, look, 80%, over 80 million of our funding goes directly towards staff. Like I think from listening, there's a perception that a large amount of it is going towards waste. And I want to make sure that we open up whatever it takes to open up the books and say, here's everything, because everything is an open book. To say like, yes, you know, those contracts. But if we look at the totality of the budget, where is it accurate? Does the committee feel that things are being spent appropriately? And if they're not, you'd be able to talk through it or recommend, like, we would recommend moving. I can't think of ideas right now, but
So I would like to propose that what it feels like we're doing here is building a new platform of communication and efforts to kind of connect the information to everybody. Meaning everybody is the audience, but there's going to be maybe a different layer or two once we have this platform. I use the word platform, it's probably a bad grammar, but maybe for some of us.
It can mean many things to different people.
Yes.
But it feels to me like if we could at this point chart the future in terms of, it sounds like this is an opportunity that could extend past a year, but we don't have any contracts, so we'll do what we can do. But if we could identify the cadence of when we want to have discussions, or even outline what's the immediate, I don't know what the immediate tasks are, but it sounds like a lot of us want to have a better education of what we need to know that we don't know, so maybe that's a session. But do we have an idea, or do you have a recommendation on the cadence of meetings, how long we meet, what we do in between stuff? What do you think is?
I think we should talk about as we how often we want to meet, because it's also dependent on your schedules. For our time, because we have board meetings every other week, so we're typically preparing something each, like every other week. So depending on what the group would ask for, it's helpful to give us time to pull information together. So if you say, I want to meet tomorrow, I'll say, we won't have anything ready for you. So we just need some time. So I'd say if you give us minimum of 2 to 3 weeks between meetings, that gives us enough time to pull information together. And then my question to the group is like, we can pull information fast, but to put it together in a presentation takes us longer. So maybe a request would be, are you okay with us just simply pulling reports and walking you through them? Yeah, great.
Don't need presentations. We have enough presentations.
Is there any urgent kind of time-sensitive stuff that we should be putting in front of everything else? It's all
No.
important.
So budget development will start happening later in the year, probably around April, so we're going to develop budget for the next year.
Probably March, because
March.
we got to do the first hearing at the end of May.
So honestly, I don't think anything is like, we gotta do it right now. Because even budget adoption, we have interims where we're changing things all the time. So mid-year, we're flexible. There's nothing that's like, you gotta stop the change from happening. So it seems like, first up, understand the budget. Next step, once there's a base understanding of which areas to dive into or what type of report,
Yeah, so I'm wondering, so once we have what is the budget, the next would be what are the different pots of money or different categories that we spend it on? So like big pots, so like, you know, what are our big priorities? So if, you know, uh, literacy is a pot of money or something like that, like listing them out so that people understand, like expenses for like buildings and things like that, so that people have a understanding.
maybe
of what
it's
these
like
are.
a revenue stream, so restricted funds versus unrestricted. The vast majority of our funding is actually unrestricted because it goes to property taxes. When we talk about categories of like where we put money,
Yeah.
the easiest way for us to pull information is we use something called tax codes. So it's a 36-digit string that codes every single dollar as it moves through the school district. And it's coded by, is it for instruction? Is it for buying materials? And then it's further dials down to, well, which department did it go to? So that type of thing we can pull easily. But because it's a larger budget, we would need to maybe talk through with you kind of what information you want pulled. So literacy team, we could pull.
I was just using that as an example, but
Yes.
thinking about like, what are the big buckets that we're spending on? So that, I guess what I'm envisioning for the public is, here's where our money comes from, here's where our money goes, and here's how that aligns to different strategic initiatives, kind of like in a flowchart format, so that if you say, here's a contract for X company is used because we have to support special education students, and this is what percentage of that. People can do their own calculations, like in terms of the percentage piece, but if we have like a flow chart, I don't know if that's possible, but that kind of makes sense for transparency
You know, and
purposes.
it's based on like those strategic goals, the next 5 years, whatever, where is money expected to go? Because there is a certain goal which board has to then, or the state might have asked you to do something and you have to live up to that demand from the state, or that happens as well. So where is the money going, expected to go? That's also.
Sort of comment of the backpack, sort of made me think of something, I guess, 2 years ago, about the objectives. But it's the word trust. So long as I've been involved in school districts since 2012, public perception has been about all the school district is success. Those are the wrong places. I interact with the city council and the council members all the time. Their position is the city just lets the school district just makes all their money, they don't know what they're doing, and they're not serving. I don't think that's really true. I think it's sort of nuanced, it's complicated, and somehow we're not communicating that with the broader community. I think that hurts everybody, it hurts the parents, it hurts the kids, it hurts our ability to work well with the city. And we need to generate trust in all the way.
Just for the record, for the, that's a minority, not the loudest voices. Parents here and everybody that I know does not feel that way. There are problems, but it's not a categorical patternistic behavior. That's, just so you all know, we know that's not what's going on, but the loudest voices may not.
If there was having that framework, right, to be able to.
They absolutely deserve it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right?
We got like 12 minutes. Maybe we could pick when we're gonna meet next. Get all the administrative stuff out of the way, how often,
Yes,
Yeah.
Before
before we run out of time.
been waiting.
No. I'm just a little hung up on I'm still hung up on what our mission statement is, because to your point, I don't want us to spend the next few sessions battling on a specific type of, it sounds like we could go very deep on just like one revenue source or one expense category. So I'd love to be able to crystallize what our mission statement is, and how that transparency, communication, trust. But to crystallize that, and then I think that will help inform what are our deliverables and like what's our agenda.
See, I need the one-on-one education before I can do that.
So
So
maybe,
my proposal is, can we get educated? This is, because otherwise, I'm gonna follow you, I don't know. To me, it feels like we've got a great piece of play here.
Yeah,
And
but
understanding, if there was a presentation that could be made to us, I don't know if that could be in an hour.
But educated to do what though?
I mean, it's not, it's like
Yeah,
very
I
flexible,
agree.
trust,
No,
like,
it's like,
and
to me, it
transparency.
seems like,
Why don't you post, we figure out our next meeting? Instead the first thing on the agenda is the explanation of school funding source. all that.
Or the first thing we can do is figure out our purpose, like
Exactly.
figure out
Well,
our.
that's what the meeting,
That's
I think we
It's a
have to
meeting,
set a
and then
meeting.
we'll
So
talk
it's,
about
it's
it.
clear that we need more time on this. It's clear that we can't make these
you
decisions.
can't have a chair right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of timing, does 5 to 6 work well for the group? Would you like earlier? Like,
Are there people missing?
we have a meet missing. Just one person.
Alright, so it works for me since I'm here.
I think it works fine.
Yeah, depending on the day, I have lots of parent meetings, but I can make days work in advance.
So 5 to 6 seems like a good time. Can I ask about 4 to 5, or is that too early?
Depending on the day.
It's Wednesdays here, that's fine.
If it's Wednesday, that would be harder to move to the staff meeting. Office head meetings, Wednesday staff.
About Thursdays?
Thursdays would work.
Okay, so the question, I've been having later meetings at night. So, and totally personal, I'm happy to meet whenever you would like. But when I have late meetings, I don't see my kids for a couple of days, I'm like, oh, this week's.
4:30 would work or 4:15, I just,
Okay.
because
That's
the meeting
okay.
ended, yeah.
So Wednesday,
Oh,
4 o'clock.
I guess Thursday, 4 o'clock.
Thursday's a little better because our school site council meets on Thursday, so
Schools get out early.
is Thursday okay?
Thursday is actually close to arriving that day.
That's Thursday.
Okay,
Wednesday at 4.
Yeah, if we do
Wednesday,
Wednesday, like just like
4:30.
4:15.
Wednesday, 4:15.
Yeah, I just need to get here from.
That's okay.
That's okay. That's what we're talking about, is you find something that works.
4:30 also.
Okay.
Give you time.
4:22.
Okay, so in terms of our next meeting, so I think next week would be too soon. The 27th is right before Thanksgiving. So that would put us at,
December 4th.
Let me ask you a question, and maybe too soon. If we did get that education and we had the time between then and another meeting, that might give us a really good amount of time to think about everything. And maybe that second meeting could be a bunch of decisions in terms of goals or a submission. I don't know what people think of that. I would almost appreciate knowing all that stuff sooner or later, but it can wait too. If there's no rush here, then we could wait till after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think it's your audience to know that we have, this is
Or do you want to do a virtual kind of? I mean, what do you think is easiest?
I feel like in person gives us a chance to really discuss. I mean, I have the presentation ready that I shared with the board just about general school finance. And so we could do Wednesday the 20th, because I have it ready.
That sounds good.
So that's just next week.
Yeah.
So that's
So that's what we need.
that's fine. So 4:15, November 20th.
And maybe we can assign ourselves some homework and think about, write down your list of who our audience is, prioritized list.
And what you think your objectives
Okay.
is or should be.
Okay.
I think you can then.
We need like a mission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And do you want staff, I guess we would create the agenda for the next time, and then eventually we would pick the chair. And then, do we want to schedule a meeting after that? So that would be
Won't be willing to pull the other trustees
November the 20th.
and the new ones come in and see if they have any ideas about what
yeah.
And then because of when Thanksgiving falls, so we're meeting November 20th, then the next following after Thanksgiving is December 4th. CSBA is December 4th, so that I think we need to skip that one. Then the following Wednesday is December 11th. and I can send out meeting invites. So we do November 20th, which is next Wednesday, then December 11th.
Both at 4:15.
Yes.
Hey, Rebecca, I'd like to wait for a quick public comment because I've been listening online.
We don't really have public comments because it's not but you can send them to me via email.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
So I have a quick question. We're gonna get information about the school funding association, so like how schools are funded. Do we want to also get a sense of like, for everyone on the team, to understand what our current like strategic initiatives are, so that we kind of have that background? Maybe that can be sent in an email, so like the buckets of how
I
we.
think it's better to start with like
Okay.
general budget because we have a strategic plan, but the majority, from our perspective, the majority of budget is taken up by personnel costs. So we do have the LCAP, we do have the strategic plan, and all of like how the money is spent is in the LCAP already.
Okay.
So that document exists.
Can we just share, I mean, I guess maybe share that out and people can take it, because I think what we want to do is like, I think I have a better understanding of like how our district spends our money, because I paid attention to the LCAP, and that information is already out there, and if we all start from like at least a document that we can do, then the conversations can be like, oh, this is what we already have access to, how do we make that available to the public as well? And then break down further.
So currently, can I ask you a question as a principal? Do you feel you have all the information about your budget?
Yeah, I think 100%,
How
I,
it comes, how it's
Yeah.
allocated to you?
Yeah.
You totally, that's
I think
not an
that-
issue at all.
yeah, and I think even to some extent how the district spends their money, because they, like, all the schools are aligned that way, right? And so most of my budget, when I look at how money is spent, is staff and personnel, and then the rest of it is stuff that is essential, right? So like materials, translators, things that we have to do. And I think at the district level, I also see, oh, there's food services and how much that costs. So when they say, oh, this is what food services cost, I get that. But I think there are certain things, it's like, I don't know, like, in the grand scheme of like, how much of a percentage that is. I trust Rebecca, so when she says it's 80%, I have no reason to doubt her. But that's kind of what it is. I see how many people we employ, and I see the cost of one employee. Because when we try to buy an employee, or like, when an employee, I don't have enough money for that. So, but I feel like it's transparent for me.
Maybe one point on the agenda could be to just let us know if there are, if there's information that's not public and won't be available to the public, if there's limitations, like if there's any limitations on what we should expect to know or want to understand.
Nothing.
Okay. So I mean, because I'm pretty aware of the expenditures, just because most of that's public, right?
Yeah.
We can see it. Is that true? I've seen a lot of that. So
Yes.
I think I found a secret place. Play that. Okay.
It'd be useful to make available, I think, calls a spreadsheet, but showing staff and papers
For the
of
budget.
the expenditures. We didn't have a chance
Yeah,
to talk
it's,
about it.
I'll send everything that is like our webpage that has the budget book, the SACS documents, so all those things that you saw, like that we printed out. So that way you have an idea, like I can give that to you.
It's all sort of there. My impression is it was all sort of there, but
Yes.
needed to be somehow formulated.
Yeah, I mean, let me send you like the SACS forms, it's a standardized, like we have to put everything into, and then we did the budget book to try to help provide information on what programs are getting what amounts. Maybe I'll send those to you ahead of time, and the next time we meet, we can answer questions about what's in the budget book, and then also kind of an overview of school district finance.
Yeah, I'm thinking that when we meet next, we should think about, we should drive to agreement on what is the purpose of this committee and then what we want to accomplish in the first year. And I think we should also think about what we want to accomplish in year 1 versus year, 10. So, Rebecca, appreciate, kind of the vision of what Los Altos does, but I think we need to think about how do we build this program? How do we build the committee so that it's useful for for the folks, the different parties that we're trying to help.
But I think the only reason I suggested Los Altos is theirs has been in existence for a while.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
means we could probably, but
for sure, yeah.
we can do something.
No, I'm a big advocate of doing as much as we can.
Yeah.
I think your experience in Palo Alto and San Luis, having been a part of MBLA as well. I'd like to know all that stuff. I think we don't need to reinvent a wheel, but I agree, Patty. If we need to drive independently, I definitely want to know what's working elsewhere.
Yeah,
It
I'm
works
just saying,
smarter.
I'm just saying that we,
Yeah, year one, it's been vicious.
yes,
To
yeah.
go out and present to 7 to 9 schools.
Yeah.
So that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we may come to a point in a couple of months. I mean, I heard somebody in the board mention we were courageous. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but yeah, we may get stopped out there. What are you doing? So I would hope that in the first year we can be seeing and talking to our audience, whether it's what we know through the superintendent or friends of ours and parents that are stopping us and what's going on. They're out there right now. So I'm with you. We all have a life, can't be overwhelmed with stuff, but I'm really excited at the fact that this isn't even a linear journey. We get to kind of create the path here. So I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm not like people, I had a few people who I know, so, hey, thank you for. People are appreciating the fact that there is a committee, and I'm sure that expectations are there, right? So I just wanted to get at what we are tasked to do very clear.
You know, that's an interesting point. It's not lost on me too, the comment I gave about schools not being represented. You know, it's hard life. Not everybody can come and do this kind of thing. So I do think we definitely want to be really conscientious of that. That comment was made in the board meeting, I think. So I think a big highlight for some of our audience will be the schools that don't have somebody here that really feel like they need to be represented. That's just a nuance. Of course. I think specifically they mentioned you and I are both grandparents, not you and I, but two grandparents. Because we can do it. There's a lot of the school district. It's over. I'm just empathetic.
Yes.
I'm not really gonna do this. And I get it. So we do have a pretty big responsibility on behalf of the public.
And kids are also better at feeding themselves than some of ours are.
So in your email boxes, everyone should have invitation to the next 2 meetings. And then we'll try to get an email out to you probably early next week. So getting ready for agenda post tomorrow.
Thank you for, thanks for being here
Yes.
and getting us started.
Yeah,
So
thank
you
you.
guys will be here for next.
Yes,
We'll be here for everything.
yes.
Well, thank you for meeting the next meeting.
Someone on the team will lead them.
Got it.
They're here as
Okay,
provide guidance.
We'll take the chairs. Maybe you can do that next time, maybe, hopefully, because I don't think you want to be a third
Happy
meeting.
to, but I guess my purpose was like, I want to make sure this is run by the committee and not, it doesn't feel like it's run by staff. That's fine.
That's all, keep us organized all the time, like, oh, the next item, like, this is really helpful. And just on and on. I could go, not really the public stuff, that would be very helpful.
I appreciate the step that the board and the district has taken on this committee. I think it's a needed step, and the fact that it's like that, and it's very good. Also, the recent cancellations and stuff, and the steps which the school has taken is also a good step to do that, and hopefully we can have many.
I really appreciate everybody here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I gotta go to the backstage too, you know, what that's feeling. That's all in black. Yes, please.
It's online, so.
All right.
I'm so glad he's here.
You might have had my son.
What was his name? Yes. I mean, and not for long, but
My daughter Elsa, she's still back there now. She's just doing, have a good one, everybody.
So that.
Yeah, they're safe. Oh, thanks.
And then we just talk about.
Come back.
But and if not, I will.
She's a good
I will. Well, but also. But, just housing. There's so much.
I'm sure, yeah,
Plus,
sure
there's
is.
so much.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Are you, the board of trustees, when you guys volunteers, is this your, like, evening job?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I
And
think
it's
what we get
equivalent
paid-
of volunteer.
It's a volunteer,
It's a
right? We
volunteer. I
get paid
can't remember, it's super cheap.
$145 a meeting.
Oh.
So it comes out to be about $3,000 a year. But there's all these other
Yeah.
things that do. Plus,
Yeah, sure.
one thing I make sure, that's what I like. Do that.